Um, Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to GDG Pretoria NFTs event. I welcome you all. I hope you are doing good. I hope we will all learn. And also, I would like to first introduce who I am first. This is Oba King, the GDG Pretoria organizer. So we brought you this event today. And this is an exciting one, I guess. We have our guest alongside Nzwisisa Chidembo. He'll be taking us through all things NFTs. And before we go far, I would like to talk more about the Google community guidelines. I'll just send the link through on the chat so that one can access most of those guidelines. But then I'll just talk through some of the guidelines that we need to actually adhere to. We have a zero tolerance policy for in-person or online harassment of any kind, including but not limited to stalking or following, verbal language, inappropriate contact, unwelcome sexual or physical attention, verbal language that reinforces social structures of domination, deliberate intimidation, harassing photography or recording, sustained disruption of talks or other events, sexual imagery and language in public spaces, physical or cyber threats. Right. So there's quite a lot of guidelines that are in there. So you might as well follow the link that I sent through on the chat so that you can read quite a lot more. Um I'll actually call through our guest for today. He's actually a good guy, by the way. I'll just give a short brief of what we know about him. Over the last couple of years, Nzwisisa has built and scaled over 40 tech-enabled startups across the continent. He is a former founder with more than 15 years of experience across various industries such as telecommunication, e-commerce, biotechnology, and retail. He is passionate about Africa, startups, blockchain technology, and people overall. We will also be running our community survey, your opportunity to let us know what you would like to see at the GDG Pretoria. We would actually be happy if you participate in the community survey as well. We will send through the link in the chat as well, and then I will display it later on. Our guest for today, you can join in. How are you, Nzwisisa?
I'm doing well, Abba King. How's it going?
I'm also doing well. I'm actually excited about today. We will learn a
Me
lot,
too,
eh?
man. Me too. I hope someone will definitely have a different opinion around this space after we go through the talk.
Oh yeah. Definitely. You can tell us a bit more about yourself before we actually start. Unless if you want to hit us immediately.
Now I think we can dive into it. I've got a slide there that at least just shares a bit more about what I've been doing over the years, so that at least people know me, and yeah, if we meet somewhere, we can have something to talk about.
Yeah. That's true. I don't know, but then I think you can share your screen if it's ready, by the way.
All right, cool. Just let me know if you can see my screen. Okay.
Definitely, I can see your screen. It's a bit pixelated. I guess these are NFT.
Now we'll talk on that a bit more.
I can't wait. You can go ahead.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, Obakeng. Hi everyone. As mentioned, my name is Nzwisisa Chidembo. Everybody calls me Nzwi for short, and I'm super excited to be basically sharing on this particular platform, the Google Developer Group. And my hope this evening is that you will learn something and that this might be a source of inspiration around this interesting world that we are seeing basically developing in front of our very eyes. So, my talk this evening is entitled NFTs More Than Just Pixels. And we're going to be basically exploring some of the real world utility properties around non fungible tokens. Um, and my hope is that one will end up having a strong appreciation. But since we're going to be talking about NFTs throughout the evening, let's zone in on what pixels are. So a pixel is basically the smallest unit of a digital image. And on the right hand side, you see an image, and this image is basically made up of 24 by 24 pixels. And this image specifically is a collection of what are termed NFTs that were pretty much put together by a company called Lava Labs. And they called this collection CryptoPunks. There are 10,000 CryptoPunks in existence, but this particular CryptoPunk is quite special simply because it sold for more than 11 million US dollars, making it one of the most expensive NFTs that have been sold to date. If you calculate that, it will come up to about 20,000 US dollars per pixel. So, one can question whether the person who bought this got a good deal or got ripped off. I think time will tell. But let's dive in deep on why this specific NFT just costs so much. So out of the 10,000 NFTs that were within this collection, only 9 had an alien theme to it. So out of those 9 alien themed NFTs, only one actually had a mask on. Reason why this one was named COVID Alien. And because of this rarity, someone saw it fit to just dole out 11 million US dollars to actually have this as part of their collection. So as mentioned, my mission for the last couple of years has been to build and scale more than 88 tech-enabled startups across the continent as part of the Founders Factory Africa team. We've built some interesting businesses so far, even within the crypto space, including Ayoken, an African-focused NFT marketplace, as well as Revix, which is a crypto investment platform. I'm a published author, not by design, but by chance, I would say. When I was doing my master's degree a couple of years ago, I was approached by a German publisher to basically translate my thesis into a book for the greater market. And so we started zoning in on translating that work around near field communication enabled payments, popularly known as tap and go or tap and pay, uh, just to provide that to the greater market. I'm also a global young ICT leader, having been nominated by the International Telecommunications Union, which is the highest communications and technology policy formulating body in the world. So this is a bit about me. However, this is one of my key passions, answering this question: what are digital assets? So I encourage you to follow me on LinkedIn, Twitter, as I share some of the conversations that I have with retail investors within the space. I also share market signals and all sorts of learnings that I come across as we basically witness a new world being formed in front of our very eyes. So now that's out of the way. Let's focus on why we are here today. And I want us to start off by answering this question, right? When did NFTs enter the mainstream? So it was in December 2017 when a team called Axiom Zen began an experiment. And that experiment was to basically build a virtual game on the Ethereum blockchain network. Why they decided to run this particular experiment at that very moment or time was simply because a new smart contract standard had just been launched, which was ERC 721. That made it possible for one to basically put together a non fungible token onto the blockchain network. That is the Ethereum blockchain network. We'll speak more on what non fungible actually means later on. But this sequence of events made it possible for them to run this experiment. And needless to say, it was a great success. Major news networks caught on and it went completely viral, right? And because of this interest, the team got further funding, which allowed them to grow out the ecosystem that they were building. To the left, you'll find an image which is part of the NFT collection. This image specifically is nicknamed Dragon, and it's sold for 600 Ethereum. At today's exchange rate, that will be about 1.5 million US dollars. So if we fast forward to 2021, many consider 2021 as a breakthrough year for NFTs, simply because of some of the numbers that I will share here. So it is estimated that in 2021, at least 44 billion was sent to these Ethereum smart contract standards that make NFTs possible. However, if one really looks at that number, and if we compare it to South African's GDP, for instance, which was around 300 million in 2020, it only accounts for about 15% of South Africa's GDP. And South Africa's economy is not the largest economy in the world. So in the bigger scheme of things, 44 billion is not a lot of money. If we look at the other number that we have there, we see that just the top 10 NFT traders managed to rack in close to 200 million US dollars in profit, which is a lot of money. However, one has to consider that at least 18,000 projects were also launched within 2021. So these traders were pretty good at what they were doing, I have to say. Another interesting number is that, in 2021, only 1.2 million wallets minted NFTs. So minting is just the process of actually purchasing. We'll speak more to minting later on in the presentation. But if 1.2 million is not a lot. If we consider our world today, there are about 15 billion active mobile devices. So what all these numbers are really pointing to is that it's still very early days for NFTs within their ecosystem. Although we are seeing pretty interesting signals around what's happening within this new sector or space. So now that the numbers are out of the way, let's try to understand what NFTs are from a definition perspective. So one will find a lot of definitions on the internet around what NFTs are. However, this is the definition that holds the most weight. And the reason why it holds the most weight is the source of the definition. So this definition is coming from the Financial Action Task Force. And the FATF is the global money laundering and terrorism financial watchdog. South Africa is part of this watchdog. So are many other African countries, either directly or indirectly. And basically, all the major economies in the world are part of this watchdog. And what they do is that once in a while, they furnish out different guidelines on how governments, as well as state institutions and big financial organizations, need to interact with different financial instruments. And these financial instruments include digital assets, which in turn include non-fungible tokens or NFTs. So they came about with this specific definition of what NFTs are. And what's important to note is, firstly, they consider NFTs as being digital assets. The second thing is that they describe NFTs as being unique, non-interchangeable, which also talks to this aspect of NFTs being non-fungible. All of these terms just mean one thing, in that an NFT is one of a kind. The other very important aspect around this specific definition is that they mention what NFTs are not. And that is, NFTs are not meant to be used for payments or basically investment instruments. So this is a very important point, simply because there are a lot of NFT projects that are being released each and every day. And many of them, if you look quite closely, they violate this specific principle, therefore invalidating them as just being NFTs, but now being hybrids of NFTs and maybe something else such as virtual assets. So when one is buying NFTs, one really has to be careful around what that NFT is capable of, because at the end of the day, it might actually not be an NFT. Another very important aspect is that they pretty much clarify that an NFT is meant to be a collectible. But what's most important, I think, is the last paragraph that I included there, in that they give this guideline that countries need to basically consider NFTs on a case-by-case basis. This is simply because there's so much velocity in evolution and development within this space that regulators are finding it very, very hard to keep up with what's going on. If someone wants to dive into this specific definition, I've included the link to the guideline. You can just dive in page 24, section 53, which will provide the entire definition of what NFTs are. So now that we kind of have a good idea of what NFTs are from a definition perspective, let's dive into what NFTs are from a technical perspective. So I'm a big Matrix franchise fan. I'm sure many of you are. Please shout if you are. And last year, basically the franchise was able to release their latest iteration to the movie series, which was The Matrix Resurrection. It wasn't the best movie, I gotta say. However, I think a lot of fans were really looking out for it and anticipating the new release. But what Warner Brothers did, the owners of the Matrix franchise, was that they teamed up with a company called NFTs. And NFTs is basically an NFT marketplace slash development house. And together they decided to basically create 100,000 NFTs, NFT slash avatars, right, around basically the Matrix franchise, each one of them costing about 50 US dollars. And they decided to sell them to different fans across the world. I remember joining this fiasco, and I was maybe 23,000 within the queue, which was pretty ridiculous. It took me a day and a half just to get my hands on one of these NFTs, just to showcase the interest that was there, even though there were 100,000 NFTs, which is a lot compared to some of the NFT releases that we have seen. The waiting list was close to 300,000. So you can imagine 300,000 people all over the world waiting to get their hands on an NFT. So let's maybe dive into the process that I took in just trying to get my hands on one of these NFTs. So the first thing that I had to do was basically sign up on a crypto exchange. Here in South Africa, we've got Luno and ValR. And using my account on the crypto exchange, I was able to buy Ethereum, basically just exchanging rands or my fiat currency for cryptocurrency. And then what I then had to do was then transfer that Ethereum to what is called a MetaMask. So I've included the link there for anyone who wants to take a screenshot and learn more about MetaMask. But basically, it's just another type of crypto wallet that allows someone to interact with different applications that leverage blockchain technology on the internet. So once I had my funds within that specific wallet, then I was able to basically complete the first process of buying an NFT, which is just basically funding one's wallet. So if we go to the next step, now I had to actually purchase the NFT. So the process of doing this was for me to go to Nifty's marketplace and then basically link my MetaMask wallet to their website and then transfer over my Ethereum or cryptocurrency into basically Nifty's marketplace. But from a transaction perspective, what you're seeing here is basically my wallet transferring funds over to what is termed a smart contract. We'll dig in deep on basically what a smart contract is. And a smart contract is more so just a program that sits within the blockchain. And this program has basically a set of functions. If you look at this screen right here, it's basically exhibiting some of the functions that this specific um, NFT marketplace had. So you see that we've got the first function, which basically is a claim function. Then the ones that are important is function number 3 and function number 8, which is pausing and unpausing. This basically allows the owners of this specific smart contract to be able to pause the sale of NFTs and unpause it. It was very important for them to implement this specific function because of the overwhelming interest. So there were times when, for instance, their platform was actually falling over, and they had to pause this smart contract, fix whatever was not working from a bug perspective, then unpause it in order to continue the NFT sales. So one will find that there are many different functions that come into play when one is putting together a smart contract. And I've included a link of a very interesting company that has open sourced all their smart contracts, which are battle tested. And basically that company is called Open Zeppelin. And they've allowed the community to basically leverage some of their smart contracts as they build out within the blockchain space. So basically now that we have finished the process of buying the smart contract, this was the next step that I experienced. And this step included basically minting the NFT. So what minting basically entails is that the blockchain network is writing the record on the network itself, saying that Nzwi now owns this specific NFT. And that is basically what minting is. However, what's important to know is that there is a cost implication when one is writing onto the blockchain network. So one of the craziest things with my experience buying the Matrix NFT avatar was just the crazy amounts that one had to pay for the minting exercise. It got so bad at some point within the process that people were paying upwards of 300 US dollars to mint a 50 US dollar NFT. So these are some of the inefficiencies that still exist within the space. But we'll talk later on about how people are solving some of these challenges. So now what you would see is that my wallet basically writing this specific NFT to the blockchain network and having that record that this NFT belongs to me. But what was written to the blockchain network? So in essence, this is the visual representation of the avatar NFT that I was able to purchase. And it's called, Matrix Avatar 32901. However, on the blockchain network itself, the image does not exist there, but a description of the image. So you'll find that it's basically a JSON payload with key value pairs. We find here a key that represents the image, and then the value is basically where the image resides on the internet. And if we continue, you will see some of the interesting attributes that include, what is the background of the image? And we see the description that it's white. Then we've got a trait type. What is the hairstyle? And the value here is short, messy. So what's important for one to know is that basically NFTs have this attribute of having associations. The actual, I guess, item of value does not need to sit on the blockchain itself, but the association which shows ownership is what's important. Meaning that the possibilities for NFTs are pretty much endless. One can have a record of what is in the digital world, or one can have a record of what is in the real world, but pretty much showing ownership and basically a history of that specific NFT, including its attributes. So now this is the NFT that I bought, and this was the metadata that was written on the blockchain network. What was really interesting as a next step was that with this specific NFT avatar, the creators, after a month, implemented a gamification process to the entire sale. In that, they provided buyers of these NFTs an option to choose a red pill or a blue pill. For those that know Matrix and have watched the movie, they'll be quite familiar with this concept of the red pill and the blue pill. But they were able to implement the same process within this NFT sale that allowed basically an owner to choose the red pill if they wanted to transform their NFT into, I guess, a super enhanced NFT. Whereas if someone would choose a blue pill, their NFT would just continue as being the same state. So in this instance, you will see that I was able to interact with the blockchain network and choose the red pill, which wrote another record on top of the original record that I had chosen this specific option, and that these were basically the new attributes of my NFT. But what's important for one to note is that, with the blockchain network, it is immutable. So the old record of my NFT still exists on the blockchain network. Nothing has changed. It's just that another record was then created on the blockchain network. And so let's look at the new record that was created on the blockchain network. And this is basically what was created. It's still the same. You'll see that it's still Matrix Avatar 32901. But now for the image value, it's pointing to a different image. and some of the attributes you see have now changed. If you look at the image itself, you start seeing that the background has changed, the gear has changed. Before we had hair, now we've got a bald head, we've got glasses, we've got a tie on, and we've got weaponry, right? So one might wonder, then what, Nzwi? Like, you've spent, a couple of hundred US dollars to buy this NFT. Then what, right? Is it a waste of money or not? So the vision basically of the creators of this NFT avatar is that firstly they are building what they term as a matrix metaverse that will allow owners of NFTs to translate their NFTs into this metaverse and basically allow them to reenact or play scenes from the movie series basically, and just get, I guess, satisfaction from owning an NFT and experiencing this new world with their NFT. For some people it's a kick, for others, it's a waste of time. But we are starting to see these interesting models of how just basically metadata on the blockchain network is translating into other aspects of basically the world and different ecosystems. So just to let you know, one of the NFTs that went through the red pill process, which was of course sold for 50 US dollars, ended up being sold for almost 11,000 US dollars, simply because that NFT came out with a very interesting attribute in that it had 3D glasses, and there are only a handful of these NFTs that have 3D glasses. So, from one investing, 50 US dollars and maybe a couple of hundred US dollars to mint, to ending up with this NFT for 11,000 US dollars is definitely I guess a good bang for the money. However, there's definitely more to this than just making a quick buck. There's a new ecosystem that is being created in front of our very eyes. If one wants to learn a bit more about NFTs and the details behind it, please use the link that I've just shared there. It's a very interesting video that simplifies the end-to-end process of NFTs in a better way than I could ever do. So now the question is, where then can someone buy NFTs? So I've already mentioned NFTs, which is a marketplace, but it's definitely not the largest marketplace that's available currently on the internet. There is a marketplace called OpenSea, which was surprisingly also launched in December 2017. So please notice this specific time period of late 2017. I think something was definitely cooking within this ecosystem. So OpenSea is basically the largest marketplace that allows different creators to basically put up their digital assets for many people across the world to be able to purchase those assets. And how OpenSea makes money is that they generate revenues via the different service fees whenever a digital asset is sold. Creatives, on the other hand, make money from the royalties that are actually sold, royalties that are actually gained every time that NFT is sold. So we have seen something pretty interesting regarding this specific marketplace. They recently raised a Series A for 300 million, which took their valuation to upwards of 18 billion US dollars. Just from a growth perspective, in 2021, the volume of transactions grew by 600x in just 1 year. So this is pretty phenomenal for any startup to experience such rapid growth. So that's not the only marketplace that's available. Another interesting marketplace that has come up is called LooksRare. And this is a very new marketplace. It was launched in January of this year. Surprise, surprise. And it's a different type of marketplace simply because this marketplace is a peer-to-peer NFT marketplace, which means that the community actually owns the marketplace through basically crypto tokens. So what happens is that if one wants to own a piece of this specific marketplace, they can go to a crypto exchange and basically buy what are termed looks tokens and stake those tokens. And by owning those specific tokens, they get a share of all the transaction fees that are generated by the platform. And this brings about this aspect of decentralized ownership, which is something that is a very, very popular within the crypto space. And basically what then happens is that as a creator, if you've got your art, you go to LooksRare, you put it on the marketplace. As people buy your your art, you actually get rewarded with these looks tokens. And through those looks tokens, you also get rewarded for the royalties for your NFTs as they get sold. And the impact of this decentralized ownership has been very, very evident. Even though this platform was only launched in January, it has already experienced days when the volume of transactions have exceeded OpenSea, which has been around for a couple of years. And considering that OpenSea already has a valuation of 3 billion, um, you can really see the community seeing value in this new way of running an NFT marketplace. So now I hope so far uh, everyone has got an appreciation that NFTs are really more than just pixels. But maybe let's dive in deep on some of the other models that we are starting to see within this space. So this brings about to this interesting model called play to earn, right? So it happened that a couple of years ago, basically in 2018, a company called Sky Mavis created a virtual world called Lunacia. And within this virtual world, they then created a game called Axie Infinity. And what this game allowed players to do was to basically buy what are termed axes, which is to the right, those little animals, and using those animals, players can actually grow those animals and battle with one another. And what's super interesting is that as these animals grow or mature within the game, their value also grows and matures within the game. So by basically introducing this interesting aspect of players joining the game but actually being able to earn money through the growth of these funny NFT characters. Just to share some of the interesting growth that Axie Infinity has experienced. So basically, they've gotten to a point whereby each and every day they're experiencing upwards of 33 million US dollars in NFT character sales. Uh, this is considering that in January 2021, this business was only experiencing just about 100,000 US dollars per day from sales. It's a tremendous growth that they've been able to go through, and their valuation recently came up to about 3 billion US dollars. So another so let's actually dig in deep around this specific model before we go to the next example of an NFT business. I stole this from Nansan. I hope they forgive me. But basically, it shows how, for instance, the old model for game developers worked. So basically, what we see here is that game developers would basically create a game and they would sell it to players, and then players would then basically pay cash to have access to that game. And players would also buy, different, aspects or characters or items within the game, thereby generating more revenue for the developers. With this new, play as you earn model, what's super interesting is that now basically what game developers have done is that they have created what is termed as a community DAO, or basically an entity that owns the game itself. And they basically have ownership of that game, but players also have ownership to that game. And as the game grows, through activities on the platform, players get dividends for the success of the game together with the game developers, which is super interesting in that with these models, basically the game developers and the players are at par when it comes to the ownership of the ecosystem that is being created. This brings about this interesting a growth that a game such as Axie Infinity has been able to experience. So basically, X Infinity has actually become more than a game. Um, we focus in on the Philippines. Why? Because 35% of traffic that heads towards Axie Infinity is being generated from the Philippines. And the Philippines, I mean, they've got a strong gaming culture. They've got, wide coverage from a smartphone perspective, which has allowed individuals to basically join this new ecosystem that is being created. But what's super interesting is that players are spending just a couple of hours, within a week to play this game, and they are earning between 150 to 200 US dollars per month. This has allowed, individuals to basically supplement their incomes. Some individuals have decided to take up gaming, full time, simply because of the returns that they are witnessing within this new ecosystem. But what's super interesting is that new models or opportunities are actually um, coming up within the Axie Infinity ecosystem. And one of those models is termed rent and Axies. And so basically, to buy one of those NFT Axies, it costs roughly about 50 US dollars, and one needs at least three of these to take part within the game. And so there are many players across the world who cannot necessarily afford to put up, plus minus $150 to join the game. So other players that have funding are basically renting out their axes, then allowing other players to basically use those axes and play, and then for them to just basically have a revenue share model whereby it's 50-50, the owner of the axie and the individual who's actually using the axie to play within the ecosystem. So these are this is just one of the interesting models that we're seeing within this space. And you can imagine with this type of interest, there are definitely going to be more of these interesting worlds that will be created, and interesting NFT games that will grow in popularity in the near future. Another very interesting business that has launched within the NFT space is this business called Rug Radio. And this was launched in January 2021. And basically, what they are trying to do is create the first decentralized media organization. And their model is quite interesting. It's a participation to earn model. So how the community interacts with this particular media organization is that if someone wants to access the media that is being generated, one has to buy an NFT. And this NFT is in the theme of a rug, which is quite interesting. So you will see there, different rugs with different artwork on them. Thereby, why they termed their media organization Rug Radio. And as soon as a community member owns this NFT, firstly, they get access to media that is being generated by this organization, but also they are able to basically earn as the organization earns. So most in easier ways, they actually start earning a dividend from it. So the membership currently is sitting at more than 19,000 of these new decentralized media organization. And when I looked, I think it was on Monday, just to buy one of these rags to get access to Rug Radio, one has to pay almost $1,000 US, which is really exorbitant. But it's super interesting that individuals saw it fit for them to enter early into this new organization and basically benefit from how this organization is being run. So those are basically some of the interesting concepts that we're seeing. But what does the future hold for NFTs? The interesting aspect that we're starting to see is that we're starting to witness a new nature of ownership. As mentioned, NFTs can be associated to things that are in the digital world or things that are in the real world. And with the signals that we're seeing, it's highly likely that we'll start seeing new items being represented on the blockchain via NFTs, with them leveraging this ownership aspect that comes with the non-fungibility characteristic of NFTs. Another interesting aspect that we'll see in the near future is big brands jumping into the space. Brands such as the NBA, Nike. I mean, we're seeing this each and every day. MTN, for instance, they're all jumping into the space because they are seeing value through the interest that is being generated. So that's something that we'll likely see continuing into 2022. Another interesting aspect is that of fractional ownership. We started off with an NFT that was sold for 11 million US dollars. Not everyone has got that type of money lying around. So individuals are starting to come up with platforms that make it possible for a multiplicity of individuals to basically pool their resources together and purchase some of these very interesting and high value NFTs. So we're going to start seeing a lot of fractional ownership platforms coming up within the near future. What we are also going to see are hacks or cybersecurity hacks in full. This is something that I think has been a common thread from marketplaces to smart contracts being hacked. So if one is jumping into the space, one has to be super aware that this is still early days, and that there are a lot of hacks taking place whereby NFTs are being transferred to malicious actors within the ecosystem. Last but not least, we are going to see the rise of what are called layer two networks. So we spoke about Ethereum, and Ethereum is basically a layer one network, and it's got certain inefficiencies. I mean, we spoke about gas prices that can, or the slash transaction prices that can be upwards of 200 US dollars. So other players are starting to create other networks that are basically efficient from a transaction cost perspective that allow users to mint their NFTs and basically buy their NFTs cheaply and then transfer all the transactions that have happened onto a layer one network such as Ethereum, making the transaction way more efficient from a cost perspective. So definitely be on the lookout for some of these interesting layer two networks that are being developed. So I hope that you guys learned something about NFTs and the interesting world that is being created within this space. And yeah, just to finish up, Earth is non-fungible. I think that's the best way to describe, uh, what NFTs are to everyone. They are definitely one of a kind. I'll hand over back to the Google Developer Group team. Oba King.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Nzwi. Can you hear me? You can definitely hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
You can definitely hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you, Oba King.
Thank you. That was a nice one, by the way. Um, and they do have questions. I hope you have answers prepared.
I'll do my best. I'll do my
You will
best.
do your best. Okay. I want to mention that we have a community survey that I would like everyone who is attending to actually participate in. So I've shared my screen. You can scan the QR code that's there. We will definitely also try to also share the link on the chat as well. Nzwi, there's quite a few questions. I don't know where to start, but then I'll definitely start somewhere here. So we have Dumelo Tebe, and what they say is, I understand the technical side of NFT, but I want the market side. Why would someone want to own a specific NFT? I mean, it's just digital ownership. As a customer, why would I want to buy NFT if I cannot use it anywhere else? I mean, it's just a record. Some NFT are just images, but they are expensive. What is the point of ownership?
Sweet man. So thanks for that question. I think um, you know something was mentioned that was quite interesting. In that, why would I own an NFT if I can't use it anywhere else, right? And it's that aspect of usage. So what is being witnessed is that NFTs, of course, have gone viral, um, simply because there's definitely this unique aspect of uh, fear of being left out, and this has created a lot of interest, and it's highly likely that a lot of people are overpaying for some of these NFTs. But the aspect that that rarity aspect, that a collection is got a set number, meaning that it's going to be a once-off scenario. There won't be another CryptoKitties, for instance. That's it from that perspective. Um, some people will actually draw value from that. But I think, throughout my presentation, one of the things that I really wanted to just zone on is that the usefulness aspect is starting to grow and mature as the space actually grows and matures. Yes, the records exist in the NFT, but you're starting to see NFTs being used in the gaming ecosystem, for instance. We're starting to witness, media organizations leveraging NFTs. One of the businesses that I invested in last year is basically leveraging NFTs from an identity perspective. The problem that they're trying to solve is that NFTs, because of their non-fungible characteristic, they can actually allow an individual to be able to start owning their digital identity. Currently, we have no control of our digital identity. It's owned by organizations such as Facebook and the like. But they're basically zoning in on this opportunity to basically leverage the qualities of NFTs in the real world, basically putting your government identity as well as your digital identity into an NFT that will allow you to basically own your identity. So we are starting to see this transition whereby the first few years has really been a lot of hype around digital art. But then we are starting to see players who are now bringing about this utility aspect to NFTs and using NFTs as an enabler for something much bigger than just digital art.
Okay, thank you. Just to note something, I've actually pinned a link to the community survey. Remember to participate. We would actually appreciate that. I'll proceed to other questions as well. There's two more here. Are NFTs different to other collectible digital assets, like owning game skins, because it's on the block?
Yes. Yeah. So it's pretty much the same thing, right? I spoke about axes, and axes are basically NFTs that are sitting on the blockchain network. We are starting to witness other games whereby attributes that are generated within the game, such as shields and knives and all that stuff, pretty much sits on the blockchain as ownership, and basically the ecosystem starts seeing value from that. So we're actually witnessing that, and I think it speaks to this interesting aspect of NFTs just being able to be associated to almost anything, right? This association quality, I think, is what a lot of people are not necessarily realizing at this point in time, that indeed one can have virtual items, one can have real world items being described in detail on the blockchain network, and having this ability to actually prove ownership of that specific item. So yeah, I think the key concept there is just an NFT can really be associated to anything that we see today.
Thank you for that. There's the last one. This one is from Lwazi Wali. So they say, hey Nzwi, what are your thoughts on NFTs as KYC and other more practical applications use cases, i.e. Twitter avatar, etc.?
Yes. Yeah, amazing. So as I mentioned, last year I got the opportunity of investing in an NFT based business that's pretty much working on bringing individuals' identity into the blockchain by leveraging the non-fungible qualities of NFTs. And just to share, I mean, this business is still very early on, but its valuation is close to 50 million US dollars already. Simply because there are a lot of investors that are really seeing a value in having one's identity on the blockchain network, leveraging NFTs to basically allow an individual to start owning their identity again. And this brings about this KYC aspect. So one of the objectives of this specific business is that using an NFT, one doesn't have to go through a multiplicity of KYC processes, right? So, you engage with one financial institution, for instance, and basically you have to do KYC. And if you engage with another financial institution, you have to do KYC again. The process really doesn't end. But with this opportunity of being able to put your government identity, put your digital identity onto the blockchain, leveraging NFTs, one can have just this single source of truth, or basically evidence of being alive on the blockchain, that will allow them to simplify the process of KYC with different parties and owning their identity. So we are starting to see this. I mean, the Twitter avatars, I think that's super interesting. But there's really, interesting projects that are really looking at some of the key issues that we face from just the KYC perspective on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, thank you for that. Lozis respond, they say thanks. And there's another comment. There's another question also from Sona. I'm not sure if I spelled that correct. I'm sorry if I did not. So they say, what factors influence NFT price fluctuations, e.g., with Pucon cards, it's things like rarity, popularity, who the is it similar to NFTs as well?
Yes. So I'll definitely agree with that. Rarity is a very important aspect of. I think this is more so for digital art. However, one has to always be aware that there are some, malicious actors within the space that will pump up prices of certain digital arts. So one has to be careful of the NFTs that they do buy. But another aspect that's going to influence the price of NFTs going into the future is just going to be around usage. So you'll find that certain NFTs, they won't necessarily be, focused in on digital art and the rarity attributes to basically generate interest, but it will just be more so from a usage perspective. And this usage perspective will translate to how big the ecosystem becomes. And as an ecosystem grows, usage also grows. So you really find these dynamics that will influence the price of NFTs. So it's definitely an interesting space. I think we have seen so little so far. There's so much more that we're gonna see within this space.
Okay. There's another question from Dineo. And then this one, I think it's for the GDG team. The question says, question for the GDG team, are there plans to make in person? I think we will answer that one later on.
Yes.
So I'll actually proceed to other questions as well. Actually, I have an idea. If maybe there's someone who wants to actually pop in and then ask questions visually, and then maybe we could hear some new voices as well. Then they can just say it in the chat. Probably one of my team members will actually present us so that you can ask your question and then have maybe a bit of a with our guest for today. So the next question is from Tinashe. Seems that the value of NFTs could largely be derived from the rarity and uniqueness. How does one go about thoughtfully selecting the right creators or marketplaces that will add to this value, e.g., 3D glasses?
Yeah. So I think that's a very, very important question. As I mentioned, just last year, 18,000 different projects that were released, and a lot of them would be fluff, right? So one really needs to be aware, um, you know, basically know what the team behind the project. Do they have a good track record at executing, and are they standout characters, right? And also this aspect of just what is the real world utility of that NFT. I think this is going to start playing a bigger role. We're not, from my view, when we're really not going to see a lot of crypto kitties, um, you know, uh, basically coming up. I think there was definitely that, first mover advantage for some of these collections that really, really ended up being very, very popular. And now we will likely witness the importance or the rise of utility when it comes to NFTs and actually basically building out real value. One of the other aspects as well is the coming in of big brands. I think, when a big brand such as NBA comes to the scene. So just maybe to explain what they are doing is that the NBA has teamed up with another NFT marketplace slash developer, and they are allowing fans to actually own video snippets of game highlights. So you can imagine, being able to own a classic highlight of LeBron James doing an amazing dunk, right? That in itself, because it's copyrighted, it's a big organization. It's the fan base is tremendously big. That it would definitely drive up a lot of value. So I would definitely say that tread cautiously. It's still very early days within this space, but there are definitely opportunities to start owning some collections that will be important in the future.
Okay, thank you for that one. There's another from Providence. How does a person get? I think the question was supposed to be, how does a person in these startups that are leveraging NFTs? Some of the ideas here currently doing
Yes.
the rounds feel like pyramid schemes.
Yeah, hands down, there are a lot of pyramid schemes. All right. So I think it's as I say, there's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of fluff. And for one to identify the real opportunities there, I think that the first step is just basically to do research on the team behind the project. Are they legit, right? Do they have a track record of executing? What have they done in the past, right? Who are they associated to? So, one of the exercises that I've done personally is basically put out a map of the very legit investors within this space, and basically mapped out what projects they are investing into. Simply because, with some of these investors, they tend to have quite high standards when it comes to doing their due diligence. So as just a normal retail investor, one gets to de-risk themselves to a great deal. But also just just engaging with the with the ecosystem, joining some of the Discord server rooms, and chatting to the individuals, and just seeing what's going on within those communities around special projects. You quickly realize you will be able to pick out issues with a specific project, uh, just around how they interact with the community base as well. So I'd say those are some of the tactics that I use, just to surface projects that actually that are actually backed by very important investors.
So Tinashe says, awesome. Thanks for those insights, Nzwi. And then Providence also responded to that. Thanks for the tips. They came. Yes. Any other questions from the community? Anyone who has any other question? You might as well post in the Q&A tab, or maybe you can post something on the chat so that we can pull you through as part of the conversation. Meanwhile, Nzi, I think I have an idea. I actually want to sell an NFT as well. Will this $20 million?
I think you have to ask the community that's here today how much value they see in the NFT. But yeah, man. But maybe to just to wrap up on my side, I'm definitely gonna share some of the links within the presentation, on LinkedIn and Twitter, for everyone to basically just dive in, because it will at least supercharge a lot of people within the space, and know which direction to take, and basically how to educate themselves.
Okay, so are you sharing the screen, or you will definitely send them through? So
Now I'll share on social
on,
media.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I see Simon posted something. Let me check. What's SA's appetite for new technologies such as this, both from an investor perspective?
Awesome question. So, I think, as mentioned, 2021 was definitely an inflection point for not only NFTs, but for the entire ecosystem. In 2021, uh, definitely witnessed a different tone from investors, just from an interest perspective, when it comes to not only NFT focused businesses, but just basically blockchain based businesses. And from a user perspective, I mean, we shared where OpenSea experienced a 600x in volume growth. So there's definitely been a change in terms of interest, and it is definitely tied to 2021, right? 2017, a lot of these different players were pretty much building, but 2021, we kind of started seeing things starting to come together. So we're definitely going to see more and more interesting businesses coming up this year. But as mentioned, it's early days. There's a lot of fluff. It's a lot of businesses might not actually make it, but there is something very, very fundamental that is changing from how ownership is going to be basically illustrated and defined in the world.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. I guess we are at the end of the event. Let me check if one of my team members is here. I will welcome G. I call him KG. We call him KG. Quitazo. Welcome, Quitazo. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm also doing well. I'm also doing well. So I'll leave it to you, I guess, to do the final talk. Well, it's not a talk. It's basically I'm saying goodbye to us.
Awesome. I suppose I'll just answer the question that Dineo asked on the chat about physical meetups. It's something that we are working on, and obviously because of COVID and social distancing and all of that, we finding it difficult to commit to a physical meetup at the moment, and we are currently seeking guidance. As you know, GDGs communities which are part of a larger community. As GDG Pretoria, we are part of GDG's Sub-Saharan Africa. So we are getting guidance from the community managers there. But we will communicate when we have a way forward with regards to physical meetups. Um, and I would just like to thank everyone who take time to attend this event. I really appreciate your commitment to grow this community. Please do fill in the survey because that will help us to sort of like get the right people, get the right topics, get the right speakers for the topics that you are interested in. And for that, on behalf of the GDG Pretoria organizers, I'll just like to say thank you. Okay.
Can you hear me now?